unity where it must emerge from. Because for me, I always look at the Jewish. They've got a Jewish board which run their affairs across the globe. And you also have the Arab League, which speak to the Arab as a nation. And then again, we have the Africans. So far, there's no institution that we are running that it's trustworthy, that is speaking to our respective aspiration. So for me, I'm trying to go to what our guest was talking about, to say, in trying to understand this topic, are we saying, as the Constitution say, that we are a non-racial country, which to me is a bit vague, because it's like I often come across people who say they want to be independent, especially the women's side, the women, they would say they want to be independent. I ask a question: how in this world are you going to be independent? Because, you know, in our culture, in our language, there's a saying that umuntu ungumuntu ngabantu. So meaning it is impossible for a person to be a person without the next person. So by just taking that words alone, it's impossible for a person to be independent, regardless of how many billions you have, how much you have, where you live, where you stay. You are always going to be dependent on other people to help you. It doesn't matter the circumstances, be it in a marriage. The fact that you are married, it's because you were not able to live as an independent. Why you want to be in a marriage? So whatever the circumstances that you are always going to be dependent on someone. And then again, coming to the race issue, I feel it is important to actually look at what is happening currently in South Africa. We are saying we are a non-racial country, but now you look at the demography of South Africa, you would find that in a store, I come from I was working in retail, so I can speak from that angle of retail. You find that you've got a lot of merchandisers who are merchandising across, you know, from your Pick and Pay, ShopRite, wherever. You find a lot of black people who are working there as merchandisers. But now you go and look the people who are managing, you would find that it's mostly the Indians, the whites. Even the colors are not much represented in that field. And then you go the hierarchy there, you find that mostly it's all these Indian and everyone. But we, black people in particular, we are not featuring anywhere. We are only staying there in the stores, picking, doing all those basic entry jobs. And from there, you're not growing. You're not being promoted. It's if you are known or something, there must be some connection. Without you knowing someone, you cannot grow. And I believe this thing stems from the very fact of saying we are a non-racial country. Because what does it do? They would rather opt to promote an Indian than a black person, because the Indian normally they become the deputy white. So for me, I feel that if we are not going to address this issue genuinely, so that when we forge our future, we understand where we are held back, so that we are able to take all these hurdles out, so that everyone is represented the best way possible. For me, that's how the conversation we need to be. We need to address that in that angle, rather than just thinking we can be a non-racial country, whereas we are building, the fabric of South Africa, it's 11 races. And for that reason, I always believe that we need to talk. What is important is us talking to each other, rather than insulting each other, rather than us having this unnecessary argument that doesn't build us. We need to be diverse, but rather with understanding, diverse with understanding that what the other race, the other cultures, so that in that diversity, we are not working against each other, but we are working together to empower each other, to uplift each other, to ensure that there is coherence in terms of what we want to achieve. I forget, I wanted to ask.
That is so.
I wanted to ask before I Wise man, yes. I wanted to check, man. I've been seeing info notes that some people cannot hear us. I don't know if maybe I just wanted to check if you can hear us. I just got carried away without verifying that fact. That are you guys able to hear us?
I think you can proceed, Godfrey.
Yeah, okay. I don't know. I wanted to because did you go through this thing the messages, because many people are saying we can't hear, there's no audio and stuff. So I wanted to verify that before I took over. So, but I got carried away. Yeah. But all in all, I'm trying to say the important aspect here is for us as a diverse race to come together with a common vision and a common goal, which I believe this is what President Zuma is trying to forge, to bring all these races together so that we look at our respective aspiration and then bring them to the table. Because I remember Ntitama once was speaking on one of these cases to say, the Chinese, the Russians in the BRICS, they are waiting for us to talk to them. But unfortunately, we don't have a representative that is going to speak our language. And if you look at what Cyril is doing, as this guest was saying, that Cyril has a vision. For me, I don't think it's his vision. It's a vision that was imposed on him, which is what I'm arguing to say. The vision that Cyril has is not his vision. He doesn't carry a vision. It's something that he's implementing, probably against his own will. Because if you look, the decommissioning of the coal power station, if you are in your right mind, you see we are going through load shedding, but you still decommission what should be actually giving you more power. And because it's not your will, it's something that you have to do. They give you money so that you stop what's supposed to help you build your own country. Because that's what needs to happen. We need to build South Africa. And I believe only the South African can build South Africa. And we can build South Africa if we are able to talk to each other, not talk about each other, not insult each other, not laugh at each other, but try to listen with a purpose to understand, not with a purpose to answer. Because in most cases, we listen to reply, not necessarily to comprehend what has been said. So I think in this kind of a topic, that's what needs to be brought up, to say, as South African, we are a diverse nation. We've got different races, but how do we forge unity? And then from there, we work together to build that unity, because it's only if we understand our diversity and our uniqueness that we can build a common South Africa that works for it. Because the ideal is that the democracy needs to work for everyone. The one that we have, it's only working for minority group. That's what I was saying in the beginning of my statement, to say the current democracy that we are having, it's working for the minority, not for the whole of South Africa. It has to work for the Indian, it has to work for the South Africa, for the Xhosas and everyone in South Africa. And we can only do that if we come to the table to have that negotiation, to have that discussion, to raise the uncomfortable questions that probably some are not willing to pay attention to listen. They would insult you if, for example, you talk of Dudulas and the Fed put South Africa first. Because for me, I think that is part of the conversation that we must have. We cannot insult anyone by raising an issue. We need to listen to them. We need to actually have some kind of of dialogue, so that at the end of the day, whatever the decision we take, it's our decision. We agree, which is why President Zuma is saying there's a number of laws that have been passed in South Africa without the parliament coming to us, because they represent us. It means whatever they do, they need to come back to us and say, this is what we are thinking. What is your take? And we need to say our take. And if it's we agree, we agree. If we disagree, then we don't disagree. Even need be to vote against it, then we do that, which is what democracy is about. Democracy is not what we have in South Africa, where we still have a situation where we work the same work with your counterpart, a white person, but you earn less than him, in a democracy. So those are the issues that we as South African, we have to talk about and find answers and then forge a unity based on that. Okay.
Okay, over to you, Nota.
Okay, yes. So I'm just going to pick up where I left off in the previous space. Before we were interrupted by our technical glitch. Thank you to everyone that's joined and everyone that's engaging. I hope that you guys, wherever you are, you're sharing this space as widely as possible. You're sharing it within your family WhatsApp groups. You're sharing it via DM so that, we can get more people that are engaging in the conversations that we're trying to have, so we can hear different perspectives as well. Because as much as this is an opportunity for us to engage, it's also an opportunity for us to learn. And from my own personal perspective, I've been very privileged that my work has allowed me to travel to many parts of South Africa and meet people informally, not really as a tourist, but as someone, who can meet and engage with people within their own communities and sort of hear about the issues that they're facing within their lives, within those communities. So, I mean, the point at which I disagreed with Godfrey was about, whether or not our president is in the current state quo. And I firmly believe that he is a willful participant in the current status quo. I spoke about, having traveled on Cheeky Watson's plane around the country while on ANC campaign for the 2019 elections, right? That was the national elections, right? Prior to the national elections in 2019, yes, it was 2019, where we were delivering cash. Well, I was traveling with a musical band that was performing as the entertainment prior to him speaking at each of the ANC rallies in various provinces, from stadiums in Bloemfontein, Uppington, Kimberley, and Bombela. And while traveling on Cheeky Watson's plane, which we were able to take off from the Fireblade private terminal, which is owned by the Oppenheimers, the one that, caused a lot of controversy during President Zuma's term, we were able to deliver cash within a suitcase to many of the proxies at various branches, which then would have to return the favor by ensuring that they vote for Cyril Ramaphosa by the time I think the 2022 ANC National Conference came about. So where did he acquire all these funds? Well, I mean, he's got various business interests. Glencore, as biggest black empowerment shareholder, is Shanduka. If people don't know what Glencore does, Glencore basically is the biggest marketer and seller of mineral resources in the world. So apart from taking part in mining activities, they actually, sell resources that are mined by different companies on global markets, be it diamonds, platinum, chromium, etc., etc. That is their main business. Glencore was also the company that was able to flout sanctions against South Africa and deliver to the National Party government crude oil coming from Russia, which was registered as oil coming from Latin America or Venezuela, but was actually coming from Russia against sanctions. And that is how the lie that Sasol was able to produce petroleum from coal was perpetuated, and we were able to have wool pulled over our eyes. Meanwhile, it wasn't petroleum that was coming from refining coal, but it was petroleum that was coming from cheap crude oil that we got from the Soviet Union during apartheid. Shanduka also controls a large part of our media. They're the main black empowerment shareholder in Naspers, which owns Media 24. And close to where I am right now in Cape Town, the Nasdaq Tower, in the City Bowl is the headquarters for the media company. So your Media 24 is your don't buy, City Press, don't buy, if you remember the words of the late Jackson Mthembu, and various other publications. Apart from their control of those publications, they also control DSTV. Now, DSTV was founded out of Mnet, and the founders of Mnet, were formerly part of the Broederbond. They also are the first directors that founded the SABC, or the SAUK, SAUK. I think when television was brought to South Africa in, I think it's the mid-70s, the head of the SABC was one. Sorry, I just need to remember or get a reminder of this guy's name, because there's so many names that flow through my head at some point in time. SABC. Yeah, sorry. Peter Meyer. Yes, Peter Johannes Meyer. And he was the head of the Broederbond from 1960 to 1972. And as well as the chairman or the director general of the SABC. And then he was redeployed during the time where they thought that, South Africa might go into a new dispensation and they need to then start privately owned media companies, because once South Africa became a democratic state, they would need to hand over power and also propel some black people, into the leadership of state organs. And they'd need to have private media companies which they could still control. And they could then use to leverage control over the SABC through advertising spend. So a lot of the advertising money that comes into the SABC comes from Mnet DSTV. Things like the SABC News Channel is completely funded by DSTV and is, one of the biggest sources of revenue for the SABC in the main, their news channel. And also they're able to leverage and get even further advertising revenue from having a 24-hour news channel, which is rebroadcast across the African continent through DSTV satellite network. What they did before founding this is also put regulations within ICASA that effectively gave DSTV a satellite monopoly in South Africa. And that is also one of the challenges that you've seen present itself to a company, an international company like SpaceX, whose Starlink service is available in many countries in Southern Africa, except for South Africa, because ICASA knows that if they open up Starlink, then they won't be able to control telecommunications, especially mobile telephony, which would be challenged by connectivity that is, sourced through satellite and satellite internet. So that is something that Cyril Ramaphosa also has a control over through his proxy, Putimaanyele Dabengwa, who is also the wife of Sfiso Dabengwa, who is one of the founding directors at MTN and is now the head of Impala Platinum and Zimplats, one of Zimbabwe's biggest platinum extractors and producers, and Glencore sells that on their behalf as well. So there's many different companies apart from another company that is majority owned by Shanduka, ABI, which is the canning and bottling for AB InBev and SAB, as well as the distributors of Coca-Cola products to whether it be various restaurant chains like your McDonald's, which also is licensed to Shanduka, so Cyril has various sources of income, and they go unchallenged. And these different sources of income allow him to use this money to have influence in spheres of business, which we assume are, just merely privately owned. But if we look at the origins of those businesses, they were part of South Africa's state machinery prior to democracy in 1994, and had either just before democracy been privatized or put in private hands, or have been privatized since democracy. And Cyril is the main proxy that oversees these businesses, or has a shareholding in these businesses, or has someone who is under his employ, who is a trustee in these businesses, which are supposed to trust, which he has no active involvement in. But as we've seen demonstrated many times, he still has active involvement in his businesses. I mean, even going to the extent of being the auctioneer at his Pala Pala farm, game auctions or livestock auctions. And these various companies, these various media companies, he can use to either target his enemies or to decampaign certain people. I don't think that he is someone who is, got blinders on and doesn't know what's going on. He knows very much what's going on, and he also understands who his competitors are and how to thwart them. I don't think we should look at Cyril as some, just blind puppet who doesn't know what he's doing. He knows very well what he's doing. He's been very well trained, and he's also very deliberate in his actions. We should not just listen to what he says, but we should look at the actions of this very conniving man, Then you look at certain things like Cyril's wielding power within the ANC and trying to effectively steer a sinking ship. He's very much aware that the popularity of the ANC is waning because what it promises to deliver, it is unable to deliver because it acts on behalf of its donors and benefactors rather than on behalf of its voters. And therefore, one could naturally assume that its voters would be upset at the party and stop turning out to elections to vote for the party because they're seeing that they're not seeing the material benefit of their support of the ANC, and the ANC is putting in place policies that on the surface look like they're supposed to be benefiting most South Africans, but aren't. How do we
Can I
see this?
interject?
Okay, yes.
Yes, sorry to come in, but there's few things that you are making, and I'm not sure if there's issues that you are raising that I feel probably, given the topic we have, it's not actually addressing that. But given what you are saying, I also feel that, like I'm saying, to say, for me, Cyril is not his own man. Reason being, he's been bought. If you buy something, you own it. That specific item, you control what it does, what it says. He might be a willing person doing what he's doing, but over and above, it's not necessarily that. I always give this scenario to say, for example, if Cyril tomorrow can turn and say, look, I want to nationalize the Reserve Bank, what will be the implication of that? What would happen to him? And I often say this, you would find Cyril walking barefoot in the street. Why would that happen? Because the people who gave him money will take all their money. He would left penniless. Because we need to remember where he comes from, how he came, and everything. So once we have that understanding, it won't be difficult to understand that Cyril has to play a willing person for him to sustain the life that he is having. Because once he is going to go against what happened to Zuma, it's nothing. And for him, it's going to be worse because they've got all his files to put him behind bar. So for him, it's going to be worse. So for me, I really wouldn't look at Cyril as a person who has a vision, who wants to achieve something that rather than achieve what has been achieved for him. Because I believe as South Africans, first and foremost, we have to, I always say this, we have to start our own organizations. What I'm talking about our own finances, our own retails. We have to do that so that we are not co-opted into white businesses, but the white people should be co-opted into our system, which is why we still the laughing stock of the world. Because why? You know, for one to be proud, to be respected, you have to. They say there's no honor in poverty. So if we are to deal with our poverty to a point that we control the whole system, as you were showing that, you know, they own. It is us who need to change that, to reverse that, so that we own, so that we don't have to ask someone to give us, which is why the MK, if you look at us, most of the people in the MK, we are not given anything. We are using our resources, you know, to establish the MK, because we understand that point to say, if someone is going to fund you, he's going to dictate to you what you can do, what you cannot do. And which is why we are asking to say people need to vote, and also understand when you join MK, you are not joining because you want to benefit individually. It must be a collective benefit. Everyone needs to share, everyone needs to gain, because we are fighting collectively. So that's the message that people need to get, to say the idea of destroying the tribalist, in a sense of us versus the Sutus, us versus the Zulus, us versus, that's what we are trying to demolish, to say it's not about us against, but it's us together. But where do we start first? We have to have a negotiation. And then from the negotiation, we address our differences. And so once we have that understanding of our differences, what connects us, and then from there we merge, and then we look where we're lacking, who is lacking, how do we empower each other so that we can reach a stage where we all probably in the same level. And we can only do that if the conversation is about us trying to understand each other rather than trying to find fault with each other. I'll give this practical example. When the Dudula started, a lot of people were saying the next thing will be the Tsonga in Limpopo and what. But I looked at it and said, no, man, that is a very misrepresentation of people. If all of us, we have a common goal to say, what is it that we want to achieve? And we work together. There's no way tomorrow you can isolate me, because whatever you have achieved, it has been our collective effort. But if you are not going to be part of what we are doing, tomorrow you see us succeed, then you want to join, then it's a possibility that we might isolate you, because when we started, you were not part of it. So the key issue here is for us, when we discuss this topic, to discuss it with an honest and a clear conscience, to say we want unity, not division. And then by wanting unity, we must address all the issues that are involved here, so that at the end of the day, because like, for example, this democracy that we have, it's a democracy, like I'm saying, for a select few. Whoever thought that a former president can be arrested by the Constitutional Court? Because that in itself, it's a mark of us not being equal, if you look at it. So those are the issues that we must have that conversation, so that whoever it's in the error, it's corrected. Whoever it's in the right, it's applauded. But you find that today, the people that are in the error get a promotion, they are raised, because why? They are working for the evil system that is there to cause disunity. So the conversation that we are having, it's about bringing us together so that we talk, and then in that talk, we have to be honest, who is behind, who is in front, and then bring us in one fold. If you listen, basically the conversation during the 1994, you would realize that the Zulu nation was in the forefront, but most of these other nations, in my view, it's not to say this is a thinking that I believe it's well accepted, but in my view, when I look at it, I feel like the rest were not really, because you remember, Inkatha, headed by its leader, was used as a weapon to cause disunity amongst us. So that gave the Inkatha some kind of leverage to have a certain way of dealing with their rightful ownership, and then at the exclusion of others, which is why now when I listen to President Zuma, is what he's trying to actually go and correct, so that everyone must have a voice, everyone must have a say, and then at the end of the day, we have a collective, agreement in terms of what is the way forward. So for me, that's what I think we should focus our attention to, the issue of tribalism, because the damage it's doing, it's causing us to look at each other as in a way of probably disrespect and in a way. So those are the issues that we have to talk with that understanding, to say it's not about shaming, but it's about understanding our weaknesses and our strong points, so that we can forge unity that is clear. It's not to take people for a ride, but to ensure that everyone at the end of the day, benefit from this conversation that we are having, for everyone to get what they deserve. For me, that's what I'm trying to channel you to say. Look at the issue of race. Yes, what you are saying is correct, but we need to focus on that.
Okay, Godfrey, let me interject as well. Yeah, let us. Okay, I want us to allow Unota to talk, to speak, and and then we will then allow Bell Ray, and then after that we allow SK, and also Ubabu Sizwe guys is having load shedding and is trying to connect and is having difficulties. That is the latest that I got from him. Over to you, Nota.
Yes. So, what I'm trying to paint is a picture of our common enemy, and I think that um, what is always the best uniting force for diverse people is if they've got a common enemy, and they strategize ways in which they can contend with the actions of this common enemy and also overcome the sabotage that this enemy is trying to, sow disunity among us. So the reason why I'm painting our state president as our common enemy is because he benefits personally from this disunity, and he is a tool to keep us divided so that we cannot actually serve the needs of our people in their majority, whether it be the majority of white South Africans who are not part of the elite, because there are a few white South Africans who are part of the elite, and the majority of them are not part of that elite, even though they benefit from being wealthier than most black South Africans, and the majority of South Africans are black South Africans. Um, when you look at Cyril himself and his incumbency, he presides over a system in which our nations have all been co-opted. Our president, our kings, our chiefs are selected and co-opted by the state because they have no, um, economic base. Whether it be the Zulu monarchy, the various Xhosa monarchies, the Mbondos, the Tswana royal families, the Bafokeng and other various Tswana royal families, even the Pedi kings, the Tsonga kings, all of them have been co-opted by the state from even prior to, the National Party dispensation, which started in 1948, and starting from, the Union of South Africa in 1910. So their people or their subjects themselves as well have got no economic base and are dependent on the state. And what the state benefits from is keeping people impoverished to the extent that they depend on the state for welfare. We are what can be described as a welfare state. And uh, what is usually raised whenever people, complain about the current status quo is how, we default to, our tribalistic instincts to say, okay, if I am Xhosa, I'm going to act in a way that best benefits people from my nation. You find uh, a small example of like a filling station. If the filling station has got a manager who is Xhosa, most of the petrol attendants or the people that are working inside the shop inside, either from their homeland or speak the same language as them, you know. And you find these groups when they gather together. I think Caesar has just joined us. If you could bring them up to the speakers as well. Um, 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 just instinctively, once we act like that, you know, we then give credence to the implied tribal divisions that people assume that we have. And if you actually look at South Africa as a whole, especially within the urban centers, like in Gauteng, um, there isn't really fertile ground for us to be divided along tribal lines because of how widely a lot of people have intermarried. You know, in Gauteng, um, uh, the majority of people have got parents that come from various different nations. You know what I mean? You'll find that a Zulu speaking person might have some Tswana people that are within their family or that have married into their family, or Sutu people that have married into their family. You know, even though historically those were warring nations. You know what I mean? The same goes for myself. You know, my father is Tsonga and my mother is a mixture of Xhosa and Sutu. You know what I mean? So if ever there was an inclination for me to, you know, be loyal to one nation over the other, I'd be leaving out or creating an enemy of a large part of my extended family, because they are not Tonga. In fact, the largest majority of my own relatives are Xhosa speaking, um, and then Tonga speaking, and then Sutu speaking. And even amongst that extended family, there's a whole lot of Bedi and Northern Sutu speakers that have married into our family, and we're all one family, you know, with various different nations represented within our bloodline. Um, so when I paint this picture of Cyril, and I'm using his own control of companies that own our media in South Africa. Our media is very influential in South Africa, and people mostly trust what they read in the newspapers or see broadcast on the news stations on in television. And whenever there is some um, uh, uh, I guess, temptation to say that, you know, there are broad tribal divisions, that is delivered to people through our media. And the media then exacerbates these issues. And then once they're brought to the fore, that's when people then debate about whether or not they're genuine. But in the main, because people believe the media, you know, the majority of people, what they take away from that is that people are divided alongst tribal lines. And that is a great danger. So one way to thwart this, or one way that I suggest that this can be thwarted, is that we define the common enemy, and the common enemy is, you know, the poverty of our people, and we find out who is keeping our people impoverished. And what do they benefit from keeping our people impoverished? They benefit from the fact that, you know, if people are dependent on welfare, it's very easy to silence them, because that's when the politics of the stomach come into play, and people act in their own interests when they're in survival mode, you know, and they think about what they're going to eat, or, you know, whether they're going to be able to find employment, or whatever the case may be. And those of us who are brave enough to, you know, go out into the world and try to become entrepreneurs, we also find that the barriers to entry into the business world are so high that one has to, you know, make certain compromises, and that makes one susceptible to being co-opted as well. And this is what puts people like Cyril in a very advantageous position, because, you know, they do have an economic base within, you know, his own family, and through various business relationships. as well with anti-black capital, and I prefer the term anti-black capital to white monopoly capital, because I don't believe that all white capital is anti-black. It just doesn't make sense that people that only comprise of 8% or less of our population would deliberately act in a manner to have businesses that serve the interests of that minority, when 92% of the rest of South Africa are not black. I mean, are not white, and also at the same time, I don't want to eliminate the possibility that certain black people want to have some sort of, ascendancy over other black people and might collaborate with anti-black capital and thus themselves become anti-black capital, so that, they are the richer blacks amongst a majority of poorer blacks. And what we also need to understand is that, our constitution gives each president 2 terms over which they can preside over the government, right? Once a president term is over, he also enjoys certain benefits. Sort of like you are once you become president or deputy president, you're sort of like a president for life. You get police escorts everywhere. You get VIP protection, which is something that former President Zuma still enjoys to this day. Former Deputy President David Mabuza enjoys to this day. Former President Thabo Mbeki enjoys to this day. Former President Kgalema Motlanthe enjoys to this day. And former President Nelson Mandela enjoyed up until his death as well. And the same goes for former President or Prime Minister de Klerk, enjoyed VIP protection for himself and his First Lady up until his death as well. Now, going back to the topic at hand and the danger of us now having the accusation of being tribalistic thrown at us whenever we did discuss how discontent we are with the current status quo, is that then we focus on our tribal divisions and the issues that we have amongst each other as various nations, and then we don't address the actual issue, which is the common enemy of a people that are impoverished, and the welfare state, which leaves people so desperate that they can only think as far as their next meal and not think broadly enough to ensure that what they are doing with their lives today will benefit future generations in their family, or their grandchildren or great grandchildren, or they don't think about the type of nation they'd like to build, which their descendants will then inherit. And that is a very dangerous position to find ourselves in. And the accusations of tribalism are usually brought about where people have an insecurity. You mentioned the Inkatha Freedom Party, which was, one could describe it as a Zulu nationalist party. But if you look at the Inkatha Freedom Party or Zulu nationalism as a whole, one can't say that it was expansionist. You can't say that Zulu people, through either their royal family, have got ambitions of taking over the whole of South Africa or parts of South Africa, which they do not currently call home. It's not like Zulu people are going to invade Limpopo or invade the Northwest or even the Eastern Cape, or try to assert dominance over people that don't lie within their tribal lands, so to speak. So really, there is no danger there. But there is an insecurity amongst people, because when you look at the demographics of South Africa, the Zulu nation is the biggest of the black nations in South Africa, and therefore it's very easy to feel threatened by that, by the other smaller nations. It's very easy for a Tsonga person to then say, I don't want to be dominated by Zulu people in this new democratic dispensation, merely because the Tsonga people are in a minority, relatively speaking, as opposed to the Zulu people. And the same can be said about the various Xhosa nations as well. It's very easy for one to say we don't want to be in a country that is predominantly run by Xhosa-speaking people. Even though when we look at the history of the ANC, in its membership, a lot of the members of the organization prior to unbanning were Xhosa speaking. And even post its unbanning, a lot of its leaders were Xhosa speaking. And even currently, that is the case. And because in our history, as a people, before even our national borders were decided upon, there had been many various conflicts amongst those various nations, fighting over land and resources that did not get to be fully settled, because then we had a colonial invasion, and those colonial battles then took priority over our own native battles, So I guess I will conclude by saying, in our current disposition, we should be very wary of how easy it is to accuse people of being tribalistic, and how destructive it is, because as Black Africans, we have had a common enemy in apartheid South Africa, the National Party, and that unified us. And now that, we feel as if that enemy has been defeated, we are descending back into the disunity of the past, when we were still squabbling amongst one another. And what we are missing is that that's what the previous dispensation benefits from, and how they're able to maintain their economic base and maintain power over us and maintain power over our politicians, because they can, spend their largesse upon people who will rise up in the political parties, or rise up as public representatives that can then be proxies for this anti-Black capital, and ensure that they keep dominance and prevent Black people from building an economic base that spares them the indignity of depending on welfare and depending on the generosity of the state, or the generosity of our taxpayers. And if you just look at our tax base in general, right, our tax base is comprised of 6 to 7% of our population paying for all the services or paying into the state coffers through taxes for more than 90% of the people to have services that are distributed to the public by the state, which is a very dangerous situation. And how do we see this exemplified? Less than a month ago, SARS announced that they had collected a record amount of tax revenue, I think over 2 trillion rands, and that comes off of the back of us having reached our highest levels of unemployment. So how is it possible that when unemployment is at its highest, tax revenue collection is also at its highest? That is possible because the taxes that are being collected are collected are collected from the corporations that dominate our very concentrated economy in this fascist state, which is overrun by capital and where the state acts on behalf of capital. And what this said to the revenue collector is that the current status quo is working very well. They can collect a record amount of taxes while a record amount of people are without work, and a record amount of people are dependent on the state for welfare services as well.
Co-host, can I go ahead? Co-host,
Hello?
are you
What?
okay? Can you hear me?
I think is it Bell Ray that's speaking?
Yeah, it's me.
Yeah, it's Bell Ray, then it's SK.
Okay, thank you.
And then it's Comrade Mdu.
Comrade Mdu. Okay. Greetings. Greetings to everyone on the space. We start with, we hope everyone is registered to vote. It's your democratic right. And you must vote MK. Let's start there. Secondly, let's entertain the question which is posed here with regards to tribalism as a weapon used to divide us. I think the question itself is a rhetoric question. It doesn't need an answer. As a community member, wherever you are from, many of us, we are like your regular community member from where we come from. And we never discuss things which have to do with tribalism. And for me, that goes to show that majority of our people, they don't worry about such thing or such things. In fact, there are more serious things they are facing, which is poverty, amongst all of them, right? So tribalism is another tool which is used right now. It's a current bait for a distraction or whatever that is of whatever else that is happening in the country. To me, it's equal to xenophobia. How we got to understand xenophobia as a South African problem, which I always argued with myself to say, no, I don't believe that South Africa has such a problem. Yes, we have a problem, but I cannot characterize it as a xenophobic problem. So to me, they are similar in a way. And let me try to inform what I'm saying. You look at South Africa. South Africa is one of the least secure countries in the world. It's easy. It's easy for anyone to enter South Africa. And trust me, I've been in different parts of the world. It's not that easy in other nations. In fact, they make sure they secure everything, And it's not from a sense of not wanting people inside your country, but rather to make sure that you can account for each and everyone who enters the country. So what is the case with South Africa? I believe the situation we are facing here is the fact that borders in South Africa, they are opened intentionally so, knowing very well that there is a very limited resources for the masses. There are very limited resources for the masses, right? And obviously, when you have such a situation, because South Africa comes from a point or a situation whereby majority of its people were excluded from the economy. So when you are coming out of that situation, you want to make sure that you prioritize such people. If you don't prioritize such people, you open borders, what are you hoping for? You open them as wide as you have opened them. And get me right, not to say that there shouldn't be entrance or opening of people or easy access or access rather of the country, but I'm just characterizing this thing to say clearly, if one looks at it, it is intentional. Similarly to this rhetoric of tribalism. Myself, I'm a petty guy. I like Zulu women. And Nota as well said, when you look at our families, many of us, it has a very diverse, I can't even call it diverse, because when I look at the person of a different tribe, I still see myself. So, as such, that's why I believe this thing is promoted as a tool to make sure that we see it now as a problem, even though it's not a problem. Because if you speak to your neighbor and you ask them anything along the lines of tribal lines, it's not something which it will be a controversy or something bad, So the general masses, they don't have such a rhetoric. But in fact, this is a marketed phrase or even word at this point of politics for obvious reasons, because of obviously now we have to characterize the likes of former president as a tribal leader and so forth, which is totally false, and I just said myself that I'm not even a Zulu person, or a Zulu speaking, but we support former president because of we understand, some of us, his politics, both domestically and internationally. We understand very well what he was trying to do. So today, because there's nothing else to say about the man, you're going to now go to speak about things which are really insignificant in South African society, which is tribalism. I mean, we even date across tribal lines. It's not an issue, that one. So I do believe that tribalism is used as a weapon. Same as xenophobia is used as a weapon against South Africans. South Africans by nature, we know. If South Africans were xenophobic, let me finish, Godfrey. Let me say my piece and then I'll...
Yeah, I'm just looking at time. You just need to round off.
Maram Chan. Okay, let me just leave it here. It's fine. Let me allow another speaker. But I feel hard done by, but it's okay. Please clarify the time part. How long we have as speakers?
Yeah, the thing is, for me, it's like at this point in time, we will give you to speak 20 minutes. And then we would say,
but I've only been speaking
10
for
minutes are closing.
No, good.
Yeah, I'm just trying. I want to raise that. I wanna raise that now because okay. I'm saying.
Please
yeah, I'm saying.
How long do I have, my brother?
No, okay, I'm gonna tell you now. But what I'm trying to say to you is that I'm saying if you speak, you will speak, and then by the time we wanna close, we'll say 5 minutes, and you only to find that we still have almost 10 people, waiting to talk, and then we give them 1 minute, 1 minute. So that's what I'm trying to say. Look, let's from here and then look at working around time. So I can give you 2 minutes to wrap up.
No, thank you, co-host. I appreciate that. But for future references, clarify this thing of time from beginning. It's not an issue, but it's
We'll
just...
do. Yeah, we'll do.
Yeah, thank you. I even lost my train of thought. But the point here is that catchphrases, we know them. If you understand politics, you know them and why they're used. And I think such like tribalism, xenophobia, these are such. I characterize them as such. And we mustn't deter, especially those who still believe that there's still much to be done in South Africa, especially as South Africans. If you like, there's nothing wrong with being proudly South African. There's nothing wrong being proudly a Zulu man, a Pedi person, and in general, I'm just saying that from where I'm sitting, I have never experienced or seen a situation of that nature whereby it is we can come back and say we have a problem of tribalism. But because I've lost my train of thought when I co-host, so I'll leave it here because I'll end up repeating myself. But thank you.
Okay, thank you. Yeah. Host, who follows next? The only thing that we need to do now, I think it's important because I see we've got almost 6 speakers here, so it will be wise to time them because I'm not sure about Susan because I'm still trying to request for him to come. Probably it might be the network or something. I don't know because so far he's not responding. Yeah, but because I was looking at if when he comes, then we give him to speak. So you can give who's next.
It was SK next, and then Comrade Mdulu after him. But maybe we can ask that Sizwe gives us a concluding address at the end.
Yeah, that's a good idea, Nota. And usizwe, I'm sure ukuthi uyasizwa. SK, over to you, sir.
Good evening, comrades, if I can say good afternoon. I'm going to be short like a miniskirt, and this is my 2 cent contribution towards everything because I'm still with my little one here. Comrades, there's nothing that is going to help us as umkhonto wesizwe than being organized. I've been listening to interviews that we are being asked. That interview is a platform for us because it's IEC elections, for us to ensure that whatever is said by ANC comrades, because every division that is coming from now, it's coming from the ANC because they've run out of options. They've run out of things to say about how they're going to develop the country. So now the only thing they resort to is to divide the nation because they know very well that that is their last card. So if we can organize ourselves, you cannot just go to the interview and you are not sure what you are going to talk. Now it's our time to ensure that we mobilize when questions are asked. We mobilize so that we ensure that people they go out in numbers and vote. That is our main concern. Yes, tribalism will be there, whatever that they are going to say, it's there. What you need to observe, who comes with these cards? It's the media, it's the ANC comrades. Who comes with the attack? It's the media, it's the ANC comrade. It's because ANC have run out of everything. So now it's our time to ensure that we put a nail in the coffin and we bury the ANC. They've run out of ideas, they've run out of everything. But as I'm observing things, we are unorganized. There was a voice note trending, someone speaking nonsense, lying about umkhonto wesizwe, saying the Zulu people are rejecting them. How can I reject someone from Eastern Cape, whereas I'm at KZN? Am I going to lead the EC province while I'm at KZN? Am I going to lead the Western Cape province while I'm in KZN? Those are rubbish comrades of ANC who knows nothing about politics, but they take the mandate from Balula, who is currently clueless about the organization as well. And then they are running the organization to the dust. Now, umkhonto wesizwe must rise up. If need be, let's recall everyone who's unable to do interviews in the media, and then we allow relevant comrades to articulate the points. We are not lost within umkhonto wesizwe. We know what we are sick and tired of. We know what people need on the ground. So we must ensure that at all times we articulate ourselves well. Let us not be confused, comrade. Let us ensure that whatever you say, you repeat it 10 times for the interviewer to hear it. Because the problem that we have, the interviewers, they're going to ask you some questions. Good night, comrades.
Sorry, my leader. Sorry, my leader. It's being dead. Yeah, it's being a dead. Okay, the next speaker.
Let us go to respect. Respect over
Comrade
to you.
Mdu. Comrade Mdu.
Where's Mdu?
That's the respect, Comrade Mdu.
Oh, okay, Comrade Mdu.
No, good evening, comrades. Thank you so much, host and the co-host, and other comrades. Thank you, comrade SK. I think, comrade, this issue of tribalism, I think some speakers said it's a rhetoric. I think it was not or something. It's a rhetoric. But what does a rhetoric do in history, in research? Rhetorics live in your mind, then it end up, or people end up believe or think that it's fact, reality, or something of that nature. So when a rhetoric is constantly repeated, then many people start to believe. Comrades, you will remember that in Africa, the whole of Africa, white people or the imperialists, they could not be able to divide Africa if it was not because of this specific issue of tribalism. So tribalism was then not about culture. It was not about economy. It was specifically about language. You know, there's a written scripture in the Bible where I think the first testament, I think it's the second book or the first book. Someone is saying God then decided that will divide the people and push them to speak different languages. So in the history of tribalism, it started from there. It's got nothing to do with economy. It's got nothing to do with culture. It's got nothing to do with politics. But it's specifically a language where people are divided according to the language that they speak. You will remember the Zulu nation was the biggest nation coming from up there in that Kenyan side. One can dispute that, but the history says that the history that we have. If you can go to Zambia today, we have people who are speaking Zambian Sutu. If you go to Kenya, you have people who are speaking Semi-Zulu, Swati, a kind of a language. So when they get down to Natal, then there was a time where Sopuza and Soshangane, they've moved out to live in different small clan of theirs, where then others, they develop a Swati language, then others, they develop a Tsonga or a Shangan language at that time, through those leaders who were leading. So tribalism was mainly designed on a language base. It was never economical. So why then white people are still using tribalism today? Because South Africa, like any other countries, you know, in Nigeria, you will get that you have more than 100 languages in Nigeria. So what is it for? It's specifically so that will divide people. People will be able to then collude and then meet and speak a certain language and then plan or plot against the other people who are speaking as a different language. Shaka and Mushweshwe, they couldn't speak one in the same language, but they were brothers. They could support each other. They could teach each other how to fight. But why then this mainly focused tribalism? It worked in Zimbabwe. It worked in DRC. It worked in Rwanda. You remember the biggest wars in Rwanda were tribalism based wars to say, no, these ones are speaking a certain language. They've killed someone who speaks a certain language. But now ask yourself, why people in KZN still kill each other? It's simple. In KZN and Eastern Cape, the Xhosa people are divided into a small tribes there and there. The Zulu people is the same thing, you know. In the northern side of KwaZulu Natal, you'll find people calling themselves by surnames now. It's no longer on a language base. It's now a surname. When you move out, have your own house, have your own wife, own children, then you develop your own small kumalos there, your own small language. So white people, they then strategically use those things so that they will divide us. But why now specifically they are using it against Zuma? Zuma, when he was leading, he managed to take, if you can check all the Premier Leagues, people who loved and support President Zuma were diverse people coming from different cultures, different speaking languages. Then they had to kill that thing. Look at the trend of people who are leading today in the African National Congress. Check the ministers that we have. I'm not being tribalistic myself, but I will tell you the fact that if in the top 6 of the ANC, you will find out that there is no 1 or 2 people coming from KZN leading in that NEC. I'm telling you for the fact, any NEC that is not composed that way becomes a disaster. You know why? Because the Zulu nation, Bob Mugabe and Nkomo in Zimbabwe, it affects, comrade. Nkomo used to lead a province in Zimbabwe, and Bob Mugabe used to lead the whole country. But why they were? Because there was always a voice down there that said, no, but you can't be defeated by Nkomo. Nkomo is benefiting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So in South Africa, you must use Zulu people because they are a majority. isiZulu is the most spoken language in South Africa. Comrade, you can go and check in your research. The most spoken language in South Africa. So to divide Zulu people is to make sure that you weaken a black majority in South Africa. So in 2018, in my organization, we proposed that to Naledi, to Angie Motshekga minutes to say, but Angie Motshekga, why per province? And this is a proposal that I will give to you, comrade, as comrades of MK. Let's have this when we are in government. Per province, at least, we have 11 official languages. At least per province, let's have 5 languages taught in that province. Even if it's not for examination purposes, just only maybe take 2, put them for examination purposes. But the other 3, it must be languages that people will learn, will love, will understand. Take Venda to KZN. People in KZN must learn how to speak Venda. Take isiZulu to Limpopo. Take isiXhosa to northern northwest, something like that. Just make sure that people at least they have 3 languages that they understand, because this tribalism thing it's mainly focused on a language barrier and something that I don't think really it's a difficult thing to comprehend if you're a scholar. I will expect that Angie Motshekga at that time she will understand what we are saying. So I'm saying, comrades, and my conclusion is to say the tribalism ticket that is being pushed, the only solution on this one, we can defeat this tribalism ticket through pushing other languages to other provinces. Let's have at least 5 languages, indigenous languages per province. That's my submission, comrades. I thank you.
Thank you, comrade. That was very powerful. Sorry, co-host. Okay, I saw Nota's hand was up before I give to co-host to tell us who's next. Nota, you wanted to respond?
No.
Oh, guys, another thing. Ubabu says, sorry, Nota. Sorry. Another thing.
More speakers.
Sorry, Nota. Another thing, Ubabu Sizwe is telling me, he's when he's on the space, he can't hear what we are saying. So it seems we're still having this problem. So we are going to try and rectify it on our next space on Friday. Okay, you can proceed, Nota. Sorry about that.
No, I was just saying, can we please have hands so that we can line up the next speakers? I think Mapara had joined, G had joined, and Wiseman had also joined as well as speakers.
Yes, yeah, we will follow up that up. Quickly, for me, what I want to say is simply for us as MK to understand that this issue of tribalist, I think, is to weaken the support base for Zuma. and it's incumbent upon us to show that this is a delusion of those analysts in the media. Because if you listen to this rhetoric, it's the analyst who, for money, they would want to like, for me, that's why I'm saying it's a psychological thing. You know, when you keep repeating a lie, you think it's gonna be true. So for us, it's us, the people who know what we believe and who stick to what we believe, that would disprove this issue of saying this is about the Zulu or whoever. Because I'm also saying anyone who says MK Zuma is for the Zulus, that very same person, he has an obligation to tell us who the Tsongas must support, who the vendors must support, and all that. And if he cannot say that, then he must keep quiet, and then we will make our determination, because we are using our mind to think. We are not using any analyst mind to think for ourselves. We know who we support, we know what we love, and everything. Yeah. So quickly we will go to G. From my side, I see G, and then I see Marara. Then let's have them. I don't know, comrade host. Do you see other people from your side? I only can see G and Marara.
Comrade Godfrey. Hey, you know, when I'm a listener there, I can't hear anything. So when I take the mic, wasn't that I want to do any presentation of sort, you know? I wanted to be able to hear if I can be able to hear. And I realized that when I'm a listener, I can't hear anything. But when I'm here as a speaker, I can be able to hear when you're talking. So me taking the mic wasn't for any submission, my leader. My apology on that one.
No, it's not a harm. You have not done any harm. Yeah, that's what I see. That a lot of people cannot hear us, and it's worrisome, because the idea is for us to share and to learn from each other. If we are talking and then no one is able to hear, then that becomes an issue. And I cannot tell what is the issue, but someone was suggesting that probably someone was suggesting.
Those
Come
that
again?
cannot hear can catch up by listening to the recording, because this is being recorded. So maybe let's move on to the next speaker. And apologies to those who cannot hear.
Cannot hear us. Yeah, we apologize. But I think what they are saying is that probably we need to to update the our app. Yeah. So the next speaker will be Marara, and then followed by level 1.
Hi guys, same with me. I saw a comment saying if you don't have a sound, raise your hands. Once you are the speaker, then you'll be able to hear. That's why I raised my hand.
And then level 1.
Level 1.
Level 1, are you able to hear us? Okay. Seemingly he's not able to open his mic. Yeah, but the essence of the conversation, it's simply to highlight the issue of tribalism, to say
there's also Wiseman.
Wise man. Oh, you see him from your side. I don't see him from my side. Okay. Is he able to speak?
He's a speaker. I'm seeing him as a speaker on my side.
I'm saying let him speak if you can. If he can.
Okay, I think he's experiencing technical difficulties because his mic is not muted, but there's no sound.
No, guys. I think that since it seems to be a problem that many of the people are having the same problem, yeah. Um, I think that we let us not force things for tonight. But before we go to closing remarks, to those who will have closing remarks, um, I'm just happy for this for this space and for this topic, because it serves as evidence as well that we are actually not uh, the people that you can call tribalists. We don't even think about these things. They don't even exist in our minds, until somebody raises it. And to us, it's all foreign, because we are all one and the same, and we love each other. We date each other. Especially here in KZN, we don't even support a team called Amazulu FC. We support Kaizer Chiefs. We support Kaizer Chiefs from the Matawungs. The Matawungis, and we support Orlando Pirates. We support Mamelodi Sundowns from Tswana. So it's not an issue, but at the same time, somebody's trying to make it an issue. So we needed to clear that and make sure that everybody can just understand that MK Party is for everyone, is for everyone who wants to see some change in happening in their country and benefiting everyone, not just benefiting a few. We all want to benefit in different ways. Some of us were not meant to be councillors or premiers or ministers, but we have our own things that we are doing, and all we want is just to be able to do those things and put bread on the table. So, like Unota was saying, as an entrepreneur, we all know Unota is an entrepreneur. We want people like that to be supported, to be assisted, to be celebrated, to be free to do the business, and in a way that really helps them and helps their families and their next generation. That's all we are asking for. We are not asking for handouts. We are fighting for a space to be able to compete fairly. So this thing of tribalism, all in all, what they are doing is to try and divide us, and let us focus on this unimportant issue, because it's an unimportant issue, that the fact that I speak Zulu, you speak Xhosa, you speak Venda, I speak a different language from yours, then we have to fight. We have to disagree on everything, just because you are a different nation from mine. So, guys, all in all, that's my closing. I'm saying good night to everyone, but before that, I'm just going to hand things over to our host. But I think Nota was saying something, and then yeah, you can proceed, guys. But we will try and see what could have been the problem, what caused the problem, why people couldn't hear us, because the last two previous spaces we had, everyone was hearing us clear. So maybe it is on my side, I'm not sure. So I will have to double check and see exactly what is happening. And also, we will still invite Unota and also on our next topics, and Ubabu says, because now I was having the same problem as the others. So it's not the end of the world. We are fighting. We will never stop fighting. And the most important thing is that we do need to register to vote. And come Friday, we will also be giving away every week. Actually, we will be giving away t-shirts, what is it, t-shirts, and an umbrella, and also a set of car stickers. As that, we will be doing that. That I do out of my own pocket, just to support the organization and make sure that the branding out there, we are visible wherever we go, because we want everyone to feel our presence, as it has been obvious that everyone is feeling our presence. So I don't speak too much politics, guys. I speak I speak the reality of the poor people. That's what I do. I don't compete into speaking too much politics. I speak the reality of the poor people, because I come from that background. It wasn't easy for me to be where I am today, but I have no politician to thank for that. And I'm not going to start today, but it does, as Black people, it does affect us, because we are the people that also takes care of our extended families, and you can see the devastation that our people are going through for trusting these politicians. So it is very important for us to participate and make sure that we are part of this and we are part of change, because if you can read the room, you can tell that there is going to be a lot of changes. Something is happening, and you need to be part of that. So, guys, thank you. Over to you, Nota, and then Godfrey. We can just take like others who have. If we don't have anyone now. Okay, over to you, Nota, for your closing remarks. Then I will give the mic to Godfrey. Godfrey uzobe seyaqhubeka from here. Thank you, guys. It was wonderful. Let us meet again next week, Friday. I mean, sorry, this coming Friday.
Thank you for extending the invite. I would like to ask if we could have another opportunity, maybe in an earlier space. I know that you've scheduled something for 6 p.m. on Friday, but maybe prior to that, so that, we could revisit this specific topic with Sizwe when we're not facing the same technical difficulties. And yeah, I think that is all I wanted to add. And also thank you to everyone that participated and joined as a speaker as well.
Thank you again, for honoring the invitation to come and share your thoughts. Hopefully, we'll see. For me, I feel it's a fact that we need to revisit this topic, because somehow I feel there was injustice done to it. So to correct that, we will have to probably find a way of either revisiting it and then share, because and especially given the fact that there was a lot of issues that a lot of people could not hear most of what was said, and what was said. So, but all in all, let's appreciate everyone who was here. I see there's new speakers here. I see there's new speakers here. Maybe let me allow Nkululeko to say his word, his VO, but he's going. Okay, let's rather stop here and then wait for Friday, and then we will see what happens from there. Then the new topic you would let us know.